So what's the idea here? Some people think it's due to genetics, to the environment, that we get sick. In reality, people get sick for only one reason, because they do not perform the necessary asceticism practices to overcome the influence of time on the body. Time makes a person grow old both mentally and physically. If a person performs these asceticism practices, they won't get sick. They simply won't get sick because they eliminate the 3 types of aging in the body. Therefore, the strongest will survive, meaning lifespan depends on asceticism practices. I started exploring this and noticed that all centenarians, whether old ladies or old gentlemen, do at least one of 3 things. Either they practice prolonged continuous movement, or they practice water fasting, or they maintain the static position of the body. These are the 3 types of asceticism practices that give people the ability to live a long and healthy life. Otherwise, living a long life is not possible. It's just not possible, because the energy of aging means either tension in the body or heat or toxins. At the first stage, tension arises. At the second stage, one experiences headaches, joint pain, the whole body starts aching. The third stage of tension is characterized by severe pain in the joints, meaning various arthritis or veins pop out, or pressure rises, leading to heart attack or a stroke. This is all a result of the gradual development of tension in the body. Next, there's heat in the body. First heat, then inflammatory processes develop, then chronic severe incurable diseases such as asthma, diabetes, tuberculosis, rheumatism develop. This is a result of heat in the body. When excess weight increases, it first leads to a benign tumor, then to a malignant one. If a person is overweight, they have to run and practice fasting. There won't be any excess weight or benign tumors. If someone has heat in their body, they need to practice fasting and do static exercises. Regarding the girl's issue, she has such intense tension that it prevents her from getting married. She needs to practice prolonged continuous movement and do static exercises. Then the tension will be gone, and then you'll have children, a husband, and everything else, everything you want. Why is it like this in her case? It depends on fate. Some are not stressed in their youth and just get married easily. Others can't get married because that's how fate influences. Some people even live in a mental hospital. Fate can act in various ways. But even if a person lives in a mental hospital, if they walk for 1 hour 40 minutes and practice a stationary position of the body, after 4 or 5 months they will recover from their mental illness. It's just a matter of their willpower, that's all. I've explained to you how to be healthy. You can use this advice or not. It's your life. It's up to you. There are specific asceticism practices for each disease. Suppose you have vascular issues. In this case, you need to walk for 2 hours or run for 1 hour. Vascular issues mean atherosclerosis, hypertension, and practice water fasting for 1.5 days, once every 2 weeks, and also maintain a stationary position of the body for about 1 hour. Do this once every 3 days and vascular disease will be treated. 1 hour is enough. Suppose a woman has female disease. Then she needs to run for 1 hour 20 minutes or walk for 2 hours 40 minutes. If she has excess weight, disrupted energy flow, then she needs to practice fasting for 1.5 days once every 3 weeks. The deeper the disease, the longer the duration of the asceticism practices should be. The longest asceticism practice one can perform is water fasting for 2.5 days, continuous walking for 3 hours and 40 minutes, or running for 1 hour and 50 minutes, and maintaining a stationary position of the body for 1 hour and 5 minutes. This is enough to not be sick at all.
What about children?
Children won't do this. That's the thing. It has to be continuous running. If you're running and stop for a while, that's it. There will be no treatment. It needs to be done for a long time and continuously. A child will not do this. They will stop. You can't make them run continuously.
You said it takes 1.5 hours of walking, and I have a 4-year-old child. So my question is, how?
No, I misunderstood then. What's wrong with the child? What's the problem?
Food intolerance. You mentioned intestinal spasms. What to do?
What to do about the tension? Replace prolonged continuous movement with hot and cold treatments. Hot temperature substitutes running, and cold water temperature substitutes static exercises. So first you need to place the child in warm water, then make it cool, then hot again, and then cool again.
For how long?
Alternate temperature like this for 30 minutes a day and try to relax the child. Then perform these asceticism practices, prolonged continuous movement and stationary body position in case of spasms. A spasm means tension.
Thank you.
Regarding the little child whose parents talk to me, this child suffers from internal heat. This means that in addition to the treatment we prescribed, the child should also spend time in a warm bath. Water always reduces heat, always. Warm water, meaning neither cold nor hot but comfortably warm, should be used to bathe the child for 20 minutes every evening. Preferably, the child should spend 18 minutes in a warm bath daily to remove the heat in the body that disrupts the child's development. And the mother should stop consuming fried, overly salty or overly spicy foods. Oils, such as sunflower and olive oil, which have a warming effect, should also be avoided. The mother should cook food with clarified butter, which has cooling properties. The mother should eat more cooling herbs, more vegetables, and fewer citrus fruits. So, consume less food that heats up the body. I've covered these topics. Now, let's move on to your questions. Please ask. Your question, the lady in the front row.
Thank you, Dr. Torsunov. My daughter went to study in another city.
Which city?
Yekaterinburg.
What's the question?
And it's been months. Everything is very bad. She doesn't like the studies, nor the city. The city stresses her out. She misses me.
No, that's not the right way to think. The city stresses her out, meaning she simply finds it hard to live there. This is generally how people think. It's called, I always dream of islands and wonderful countries. Well, it always seems better somewhere else. It's better in another country, and even better in a developed country. I just spoke with a relative of mine who lives in a developed country. Life there is incredibly hard. That means a very high standard of living requires earning a lot of money. Everything is very expensive. People often live in debt. And the country facilitates this. They offer loans as much as you want until your debt becomes enormous. Then they start shaking you down, taking away your property, and so on. It's really tough. I see that in Russia, life is somehow easier because the standard of living isn't as high. And generally, rent isn't as expensive. Food isn't as costly. It's just the influence of advertisements that makes people think life in another country is much better. Once I visited one of the most economically developed countries, people barely managed to come to lectures. I asked, why can't you come to the lectures? You should be fine financially. They told me, firstly, Dr. Torsunov, financially it's not fine because all the money goes on everyday expenses. Secondly, we have to work like horses, simply 10-12 hours a day. Everyone works like horses. It's the same thing. Let's compare Yekaterinburg. I have nothing against Yekaterinburg and let's say Perm. There is a higher standard of living, which means more stress. Life is harder. The same with Moscow, yet people flock to Moscow. To survive there, you need to pay twice as much money as here. This is simply incorrect thinking. People think, I'll move to another city and everything will immediately be good. Life there will be harder. You'll have to work more. Survival will be tougher. And it's not certain that living there will be easier for you. This is my experience. I travel around the world and see how life is in different places. For instance, in Russia, I see people are relatively relaxed. They wander leisurely. Well, there's no work, what to do? But for example, in Germany, you can't live like that. There you either work or they'll simply put you in jail for debts and for other things. That's it, my dear friends.
So, should she move here or should I go there?
She should move here. If you move there, it will be worse. You'll just end up stressed out. You're already struggling and you feel it. She needs to move here. Put that to her as a condition. She's an adult and needs to learn to understand that she won't be happy living in that city. You please ask your question.
Dr. Torsunov, I wanted to ask for your advice. My husband and I have been together for 21 years. We have 4 children. My husband betrayed our marriage. He's been unfaithful. Why?
A husband cheats because he's tired. He needs to change something in his life. If there is no prayer, spiritual life, or there's little spiritual life in the family, then the man leaves for another woman. You see, having 4 children should be a reason not to leave at all. Usually, having many children keeps a man from leaving completely. But he feels trapped. He needs sexual relationships. Why? Because he wants to be happy. A woman finds great happiness in her children, while a man only finds happiness in sexual relations with a woman. That's it. He has no other options. So, if one has no conscience, if there's little or no relationship with God in the family, then a man will go to another woman. It's a law of life, whether he's a good person or not. He's a good person, but it doesn't change anything.
We have different religions.
It doesn't matter. There's such a thing as cleansing of fate. For instance, if we look at your fate as you age, there's a growing tendency towards solitude. In your fate, there's a long period, approximately 5 to 6 years. This period began about 1.5 years ago. During this period, it's very likely you'll end up alone or you may be betrayed. This long period will last another 5 or 6 years and it needs to be neutralized. When we talk about a bad period, people usually take it as a doom, that nothing good will happen next. But actually, if you engage in asceticism practices, if you pray in a stationary position of the body for at least 1.5 hours each day, you can completely neutralize this bad period. Maybe in 2-3 months he will come to his senses, or this other woman will make his life miserable. Either way, something will happen that will make him become reasonable, because what he is doing now is sinful. This sin occurs only because fate isn't being healed. There are diseases of the body, diseases of the mind, and diseases of fate. What are diseases? It means something bad is accumulating. Right now, he's accumulating something bad in his life, and to stop this accumulation, you need to heal the fate, which in your case is shared with him. So when you pray, it helps him too. The first stage of healing your fate is finding peace in your heart about your family. The second stage is influence, meaning you speak to him and it penetrates his conscience. The third stage means he will have to change. Right now, even the first stage isn't there. If we talk about defeating fate, taking 100% as the total, the first stage of victory over fate is called peace in the heart. Your heart is tense because of this situation. You're also not sitting idle, you're doing something. Right now, you've only overcome 7% of your fate out of 100. That's too little to even feel that something is changing. If you reach 30%, then your heart would be at peace. And you would understand that something is changing, it's becoming easier to live. It's gotten a bit easier for you, but it's not enough. In other words, what's happening? Fate is weighing down on you, and you're doing nothing. You're not defeating it. Moreover, you're also experiencing defeat related to your body, meaning the tension in your body is not being overcome. It's accumulating diseases in the spine, brain vessels, and joints. It's happening simultaneously. If diseases accumulate, you won't be needed by anyone. A person is needed by everyone around only when healthy and happy. When one is sick and unhappy, no one needs them.
So I need to pray?
You need to pray, do exercises, run, wish happiness to people, and stay calm. You can't just calm down as psychologists say, just calm down. If I stick a needle in your buttocks now, try to calm down. You'll try to calm yourself. I am calming down. I am calming down. And as I stick the needle deeper, try to stay calm. That's artificial thinking. If you practice prolonged, continuous movement, a stationary position of the body, and prayer, then the energy of time that currently stresses you in all these aspects will be neutralized. If you overcome 30% of your fate, peace will come to your heart. It's not telling yourself, I am calm, I am calm. That doesn't work. But if you do all this, then you will feel peace. This means you've defeated your fate by 30%.
Dr. Torsunov, I have a question. My husband says he can't see his son and he insults me.
That's just the amount of work for you, that's all. It's the same fate. It's called tension. There can be physical tension in the body or tension in your fate. You need to pray.
Thank you very much.
You can sit doing nothing and think, Lord, when will this all end? It will never end. It only gets worse. For instance, if a young girl thinks, when will I meet my man? You'll never meet one. You need prayer, you need movement, you need asceticism practices. If you don't do this, life will continue as it is. Nothing will change. Suppose she says, I want to meet a guy. Well, you want to meet. God has already given you someone, and you. He's not right for me, I don't agree. This one isn't right for me. He gave you who you're supposed to have. If you think he's not right for you, it means you're living incorrectly, not developing. That's all. When the time comes, God gives you a man, whoever is meant to be. Will he give someone better? Never, because it's not meant to be. Develop yourself and it will be meant to be. It's wrong thinking to wait for something in life. That's the wrong way to think. You too. You're a sensible, educated person. Act as I've told you. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have seen thousands of examples of how it works. Do it. You'll see the results. You can bring your husband back to the family. I give it an 80% chance that he will stay with you. Only 15% chance that he completely loses his mind. If you live entirely incorrectly, he might go somewhere else, but definitely not to that woman. Next question from the back there.
Good evening. I wanted to thank you. You do such great work for us. I want to share and then ask a question. I want to share that last year at the seminar, I asked you a question about my son. I asked a question about my son. He's into ballroom dancing sports, and it's a big deal for us. It's significant. You told us that time would tell. Either he would change his field of activity, or sponsors would be found. And indeed, since October this year, he has a partner who pays for our training. My question is about relationships. I used to be hot-tempered.
And now you're cool-tempered?
No, I'm still the same. But before, whenever something happened, my head would just be on fire. I'd blurt out everything that was on my mind without thinking. I'm talking about my relationship with my husband. Now I don't even have the strength. If something bothers me, I just can't bring myself to tell him. It started to upset me. Sometimes it really gets to me when some anxiety appears. I try to speak directly to him. I start writing messages to him. And when he's at work, his phone keeps beeping. I just think that on one hand, I don't want to upset him. On the other hand, I'm still tormented by this idea. How do I communicate my concerns to him without offending him?
Very gently, carefully, meaning tell it not as intensely as you feel. Women feel everything very strongly, and they also want to express it strongly to a man. You need to communicate it much softer than you feel, but if he doesn't respond, keep telling him gently, over and over.
I need to be patient.
You can't just be patient. People accumulate patience by practicing the stationary position of the body. Patience is a type of energy. It's not something you can simply acquire. When a person engages in prolonged continuous movement, they develop a willpower impulse for life. Willpower increases and they get the ability to achieve something in life. When a person does not move, on the contrary, a person can endure any situation. When a person practices water fasting, they increase the clarity of their understanding. Their mind becomes clear. If you all practiced enough fasting, you wouldn't ask me questions. You would understand everything on your own.
I tried fasting a bit, but there's an opinion that women shouldn't do it.
You accumulate excess substances in your body. You need to practice fasting. You have a lot of heat in your body, so you can't fast for long. But from evening to lunch, you must fast, at least once or twice a week. That means eat a little in the evening and then only at lunch. Otherwise, your hormonal functions will gradually get worse.
Thank you. Can you give me another piece of advice? This anxiety keeps bothering me.
You need to swim in a pool.
If I swim, then I'll be calmer?
You're overheating. That's why you're anxious. Either go to the pool or lie in a warm bath in the evenings. You need contact with water. Next person, please ask your question.
Hello. I have a question. My husband and I run a business together, and the entire enterprise is registered in my name. We're now in such a phase that I really want to buy commercial property. And I'll have to take a big loan from the bank, and it really scares me.
That's a wrong decision.
I understand that we'll manage to pay it off.
Wrong decision. There will be a short period when there will be a significant downturn in business. This period will last 4 months, but that's enough to ruin your business with this decision.
My husband and I are on vacation in the winter. We have a summer business.
You should buy property within your means. Then expand it. Your thinking is incorrect. Your life is heading towards destruction. You can buy something within your means. Now you want to take more than you can earn. It's better to live within your income and gradually save up. Right now, everything in your life is good. You have enough business and money, and you are relaxed. You think it will be better if you keep investing more and more. In reality, your thinking is destructive. Because if you take this step now, things will turn out badly. And the reason for this step is your relaxed thinking. You've become too relaxed because fate has gradually started to favor you. Your psyche has become relaxed, and you've set your sights on something that will destroy your life.
Thank you. I feel fear for some reason.
You feel fear because you sense danger. That's the only reason, and this danger is real.
We have another question. Our son lives in another city, very far from me. The discord here makes me want to move to that city.
You won't have any business there.
Why?
That's how fate acts, but you can move there. I'm just telling you, and you try. A woman here said, "Dr. Torsunov, can you believe it? You guessed right. We didn't give up ballroom dancing, and now our partner helps us with money. Fantastic." Do you think I won't guess your situation?
What about selling property and then buying new one? Is that possible? Not taking a loan, but selling something and buying something new?
Yes, that's a reasonable solution.
Thank you very much.
Be happy, but definitely do not move to another city. Under no circumstances. Your business will be destroyed there. Only this city suits you. Maybe there's another one that will suit, but definitely not that city you mentioned. By the way, speaking of your son, he also will not live there his whole life. He will study there but won't be able to work there. He will have to move because there is no future for his business there. All right, another question. My dear friends, I will have to leave after the lecture. I'll only have time to quickly hand out flowers. And then get in the car, go to take my suitcases, and head for the train to another city. If you want to continue asking questions, then come to that city. We can continue our discussion there.
Hello, here's my question. What activity should one engage in to become a more effective person?
What you are doing is superb for you. You just have one misunderstanding. You don't quite understand how to develop relationships with your superiors. As a result, the leaders who... You are a good specialist yourself, but if this is your company, you need government contracts. If it's not your company, then find another one where you'll be more appreciated. In other words, you lack vertical connections. Meaning, the activity you are engaged in is right for you. It suits you. You just lack the opportunities to realize yourself. Because you don't quite understand what kind of relationships you need to build with your superiors and how to do it. It starts with your relationship with your father. Meaning, your karma for upward progression is weak, and because of this, you lack money. Your horizontal relationships are good. You have good relationships with subordinates, with friends, but they don't bring money. They might bring connections, but not money. Money only comes from superiors, especially in your case. You need to develop a vertical relationships. This means respecting elders more, praying to be noticed by higher-ups, to get some orders, to make them cooperate with you, respect you, and so on.
Does this depend on difficult family relationships?
Do you have difficult family relationships?
Yes.
That's another fate. It's your fate too. It can't be easy because that's your fate. It's your character. You place principles above people. Your wife does too. All this must be overcome. Today in the lecture, we will talk about this. Today I will continue this topic, how bad fate really operates in family life. There are a few main points you need to know. The first main point, which I've been trying to explain for a long time, is that people mostly just get exhausted from the incorrect lifestyle. Therefore, they can't be together because they lack strength. They take on enormous debt loads like mortgages. They work like horses. They only see work, home, TV, work, home, TV. After 5 years, a person has no energy not just to talk to their spouse, but has no energy even for themselves. The man starts to drink and to smoke. The woman becomes depressed, binge eats at night, gains weight, and becomes unattractive. That's how a woman relaxes, with food and chatter. This is artificial rest. It's incorrect. Men relax through alcohol, television, and computer games. This is artificial relaxation. It's incorrect. Artificial relaxation does not increase the family's energy. As a result, the very concept of love, which can only exist in an atmosphere where people have a lot of energy and mental capacity. I've given an example that when people walk through a park, they smile at each other, but it's harder to keep smiling once they get home. Meaning, when there is plenty of energy, people can replenish themselves, then they are capable of giving happiness to each other. For example, speaking of my family fate, my horoscope is set up in such a way that any astrologer would say it's impossible to keep a family. Simply impossible because there are difficulties everywhere. The whole horoscope is full of difficulties. But thanks to my asceticism practices, I maintain a happy family life. I know how much energy I need to spend to keep things right with my wife. That's it. That's the whole horoscope. So, what's the idea? It's that people often don't make enough effort. Suppose there's no mental rest. If you're obsessed with work, glued to the TV, and can't even smile at each other, then very soon your family will fall apart. No need to wait long. Because how long can a person live like that? After a while, both men and women exhaust themselves. Often when women are exhausted, they fall into depression. If the woman is quite attractive, she'll start looking for another man, regardless of her children and family. It doesn't matter to her. If the man is more prominent, he will start looking for someone else. If the woman is less attractive, she will become depressed and humiliated. There's this concept called self-esteem. It reacts to life. For instance, if someone's business starts booming, their self-esteem skyrockets. They get blindsided. They don't realize that if they keep investing heavily, they'll end up with nothing. They think no matter how much they invest, there will always be more and more profit. It's an illusion. If someone is staying close to a person who pressures them, gradually their self-esteem sinks. They become offended, humiliated, miserable, and unattractive. This means if someone is humiliated or offended, they also become unattractive. And if someone is unattractive, who needs them? No one will want to live with them. They bring no happiness. If someone feels that life is very tough, nothing can be done about it. It causes depression. Meaning, their self-esteem has retreated. They can't live properly. They can't do anything, change anything in life, learn or develop themselves. They just drift aimlessly. In other words, how do we live? A little pressure from fate, and we get knocked off course. What is bustle? It's when self-esteem pushes ahead. It means a person believes that happiness will come in the future. It means, for instance, I get on a tram or a bus and wait until I get home. While I'm traveling, there's no happiness. Happiness is in the future. I get off the bus and while walking home, I'm waiting when I finally get home. Once I get home, then I will be happy. I arrive home and wait until I sit down and watch TV. My favorite show, The Dead Don't Sweat. A new episode, The Dead Woke Up Again. It's some kind of nonsense, but it's interesting nonsense. The actors perform well. You sit down to watch a movie. What are you doing during this time, waiting for the end of the movie? The show is over. All right, you finish watching, then you go to sleep, waiting to fall asleep. Then you fall asleep. Then again, you wait to get to work and so on. People always live in the future. When I pay off the mortgage, then I will be happy. When I graduate from college, then I will be happy. Once you graduate, you think, when I get a job, then I will be happy. You get a job. When I start earning money at work, then I will be happy. And suddenly you die. A person always lives in the future. And when a person lives in the future, they have no happiness. Happiness is postponed for later. And living with such a person is impossible. That's why the family falls apart. If a person is at a bus stop, they need to switch gears, force themselves to live. They want to leave the bus stop, but they need to make themselves feel alive there. One has to start wishing happiness to everyone at the bus stop. Enjoy nature, rejoice at people. Then others will also rejoice at you. What kind of people will rejoice? The unburdened ones. If you rejoice at a burdened person, they turn away from you. And there are unburdened people like Tatiana who organizes lectures. She can smile at you. That's why she lives long and happily, because she lives correctly. Look for unburdened people if you want to change your life. Association and friendship with the right people are very important. A single word from a kind person can change your whole life. That's why we created the Good People Club. We have a bunch of training sessions. There are online seminars. All around the world, in all time zones, people gather in small groups and get united. Find out from the organizers in your city where to go. In some apartment or a small club, about 15-20 people gather together. You can see me. I am directly connected with you. You can ask questions just like at the lectures. But the essence is not just that you come and I, Dr. Torsunov, tell you something. The essence is that you come to meet people, make friends. They live and evolve just like you, so you are on the same wavelength. On January 4th and 5th, there will be a unique event that I advise all of you to attend. I didn't come to perm again, but what is this event about? We will learn how to pray. On Saturday and Sunday, we gather online. This is organized by the Good People Club. Whether you attend the Good People Club or not, you can come to this event. You sit down. During the first hour, I'll be explaining how to pray. Then we pray for 1 hour. Then we analyze what was happening. The next day, it all repeats. In 2 days, you will have a great experience to change your fate and to work on yourself. That's life. You need to change your life. You might say, I don't have time, I have to work. But if you fall in love, would you find time for a date? Certainly, because it's really important. So, what I'm recommending to you now is just as important, because the main problem for people in modern society is that they confine themselves to their family, work, and TV. This gradually drains all aspects of their life. Essentially, they become depleted even in their capacity to be active. Such a person cannot be effective, successful, and their ability to work also diminishes. Because no one needs a tired, weakened person, not their spouse, not their employer, no one. If a person loses strength, they become miserable, exhausted, then who needs them? They get fired from work, kicked out by their spouse. The same kind of unhappy friends show up, they start drinking, and off it goes. Change your worldview, your life. That's where you need to start. Don't think you're unlucky. My husband is bad, why did he leave me? So the first reason is the wrong lifestyle. The second reason, the energy of love can't exist in a family if the relationships are built in a rigid way. Understand the principle that in family life, the softer you behave, the more effective it will be. Speak softer and more gently, and your words will influence a loved one more than quarreling. Speak kindly. It will be easier to understand what you say than if you were to quarrel. It's always important to understand a simple thing. You might think you didn't act too badly, but the person close to you may see it differently. For instance, women tend to be very emotional by nature, and expressing emotions to make oneself more endearing is a good strategy. Suppose there's a young man next to you and you express your feelings emotionally. Oh, I really like this. That's great. Showing emotions around someone who loves you is always nice. More emotions mean more love. It's great. But expressing emotions when a woman dislikes something, saying emotionally, "Oh, leave me alone," can so deeply hurt a man's heart that he might not talk for 2 days. And you might think, what did I do? I just said it as it is, that's all. It seems simple to you. Imagine an elephant stepping on a dog's paw. The elephant wouldn't even feel it, but it's very painful for the dog. Why? Because the weight of the elephant is too heavy for the dog. Similarly, women's emotions can be a heavy burden for men. It makes sense comparing an elephant to a dog in this case because the emotional strength of a woman can be overwhelming for a man, but for women, it's normal. Similarly, a man must understand that if he pressures his wife with his rudeness, it's also difficult for her. It's very hard for her to endure it because her psyche is very sensitive, delicate, and tender. It cannot stand harshness. The woman then starts to direct her emotions at you. She releases her emotions. You respond even more harshly. She's hurt again, more emotions erupt, and thus an explosive reaction begins. Why does it begin? Because we're foolish. We do not understand how men and women are fundamentally different. We just don't understand how to communicate with a woman. You need to approach a woman gently and carefully. My dear, I'd like to tell you that you want too much money for that dress. I'll have to work for 3 months to afford it. Now the second scenario, if you speak harshly, you're asking for too much money, I have to slave away for 3 months, you understand? She won't understand because she will take it as a personal insult, meaning it's not about whether to buy the dress or not. What matters to her is how you said it. Her psyche will be shattered by the harshness itself. She will be offended by the roughness for several days. And then she won't need that dress from you anymore, even though you wanted to say that you could buy her a dress, just a cheaper one. What you meant was that you actually do want to buy her a dress, just not one that expensive. You wanted to say that kindly because you are willing to do anything for your wife. But you phrased it so roughly that she doesn't want anything from you anymore. And in fact, she doesn't want to live with you anymore. She wants to run away because she can't stand the harshness. That's the reason for the seeming inconsistency of women. She wanted the dress, you responded harshly, then you tried to talk to her, and she said, I don't want the dress anymore. You've already picked out the dress, and she says, now I don't want it. He thinks, my God, what nonsense is this? One moment she wants it, the next she doesn't. Where does all this come from? If the relationship is incorrect, a woman can no longer accept anything from a man. She doesn't need anything from him anymore. Primarily, she needs a relationship. She needs the energy of love to flow. She needs tenderness, a kind, gentle approach to a woman. Without this approach, nothing will work. And from this comes madness, as seen from the man's perspective. We agreed we were going on vacation. I took time off from work. She says, I'm not going anywhere with you. Why won't she go? Because there's no love. Why go if there is no love? She doesn't understand and says, I'm not going anywhere. Instead of simply understanding that she's very upset and currently doesn't feel like she can go. You just need to apologize kindly and say, I'm sorry. And wait a day and she'll think about it and say, I'll go. That's all. Everything changes for better again because the woman has calmed down and recovered. Or suppose a woman says something emotionally to a man and he can't bear it, and she thinks, what did I say? If a woman said that emotionally to another woman, she wouldn't even notice. But you can't talk like that to a man because he can't tolerate emotions. If he could tolerate them, he wouldn't fall in love. Why did he fall in love then? Because he can't tolerate emotions. Women's emotions penetrate his heart because of their deep impact. Two hearts penetrate each other very deeply. The same deep impact can also severely hurt him because his heart is unprotected from this woman. The woman said something emotionally. The man became very tense. Their love weakened. Why? Because the relationships are incorrect. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.